Good Monday morning to you. It is another Money Mondays here at the Business of Apparel and Unmarked Street. And today we're kind of doing a little bit of research, trying to figure out what kind of questions you might be wondering about when it comes to money in the fashion world. And one question that really popped up consistently was, do fashion designers make good money? And is it maybe a career path that you would want to go down or that you would want to change to? And this reminds me of a story from like one of my family reunions when I had just graduated college. And so I had just graduated with my fashion design degree. I graduated from the University of Cincinnati, and their program was really, really special. So I actually graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Design. It included so much actual real life work because there was like a mandatory internship element to it. So it actually became a Bachelor of Science in what I do. And so I majored in fashion design, not fashion merchandising. I have learned my merchandising throughout my career. And I remember one of my cousins in at a family reunion a couple of years after I had graduated was thinking about going to the same program as me. She wanted to go to DAP. She wanted to go to the University of Cincinnati. She wanted to major in fashion design. And I remember her dad, so my uncle came up to me and said something about, we really weren't sure if this was a good career path for her. And we didn't think that she could make any money in this field. But after watching you graduate and go off and do your thing and get a good job and start with a really healthy salary and like start your life off right with a good career, we're excited to let her do it. and, and I think there is kind of this notion about that like starving artist lifestyle, right? Like we at the School of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning in Cincinnati, we kind of go hand in hand with multiple different fields. So the design segment is made up of graphic design, digital design, fashion design, and industrial design. At least it was at the time that I was there. These programs probably have evolved since I've been there. Architecture was a huge part of it too. So architecture and planning. Art meant fine art, and it was people who were learning how to paint for a living, and people who were really crafting their fine art skills. And so when it came down to it, like there was that element of us understanding that some of those career paths were going to be very lucrative. Like I have some graphic designers in the family and they make great money. As a fashion designer, I have made great money throughout my career. There's a lot of different opportunity if you take the right career path afterwards, but there's also that lifestyle where you can decide, I'm going to paint for the rest of my life and be a creative. And it might not be as lucrative as if you went into like the corporate world to get like a graphic design job or industrial design, something very, very needed in the world. I have a friend who actually left college as an industrial designer and went to a company and designed toothbrushes for the first section of his career. And when you think about it, like there are people who need to go design those things. Like someone needs to make sure that they're functional, are they ergonomic when you're holding a toothbrush in your hand a certain way? And so there are definitely lucrative career paths. I will say it doesn't require a design degree either. Like, I spent 5 years in school, a year and a half of that being mandatory internship experience. So I was getting real world work experience. And that doesn't have to be the case. I would say that learning how to be a fashion designer at school very traditionally teaches you how to draw amazing, beautiful fashion pictures. Croquis is what we call them. So we draw those like, fancy fashion figures that look tall and skinny, and they've got this amazing like drape of a garment on it. If you've ever like seen anything in Vogue or like Dior's old sketches, like those are the kinds of things that we learn how to do, and we don't learn how to do it with different mediums. We use markers, we use paint, we use watercolors as paint, but watercolors is a very popular one, especially for fashion designers. And so we learn how to do all of that stuff. We do learn how to sew. So I went into fashion design school knowing how to sew. I'd been sewing since I was 7 years old, but you learn how to sew at a totally different level, I think, in fashion design school. On industrial machines, you understand what's being done at a production level with manufacturers that you're going to be working with overseas. You understand the elements of how fast that goes. So there is a different element of learning how to sew at a really high level when you're in fashion design school. We create our own collections, right? So we're taking sketches and mood boards, and we're doing inspiration trips, and we're putting that into a collection that we design, and then we're sewing it and making it and sourcing our own fabrics, and coming up with these like really creative ways to then present on stage and have models walk in it, and learning how to do a runway show. Like all of that is stuff that you do in fashion design school. Absolutely. And it's incredibly fun. Like when I look back on my time at the University of Cincinnati, like I would go back in a heartbeat. That is a time of my life that I loved. Everything that I was doing creatively, everything that I was doing in the way of like making friends and being on my own for the first time, like that is a time in my life that will always, always remain super precious to me for so many reasons. But one of them was everything that I got to do in design school. And the tricky part about all of that is that as soon as you leave school and go out into the world to get either a corporate job or a high-end fashion job, like if you want to go into couture and you want to work in couture houses, if you want to take that and you want to start your own business, if you want to like have your own collection that you're going to put out into the world, they don't teach you a lot of that stuff. And so I will say there are a lot of really great courses and programs out in the world. There are a lot of like people who are in the space that I live in, right? Like we're trying to teach startup owners how to start their brands and how to build businesses and how to create those collections of apparel in a way that's not just like drawing pretty pictures, but like really practically, how do I communicate with a manufacturer? How do I find a manufacturer? How do I find my fabric? How do I communicate this properly? How do I work on patterns? How do I build a tech pack? Like all of those kinds of things need to also be learned, along with all the finances and CEO leadership and business planning that actually goes into building a business as well. And so something I've kind of always said is that, I think if you want to go to fashion design school and you want to become a fashion designer, yes, there is absolutely money in it. I remember when I was graduating, hearing a story about someone who had graduated from the program that I was in. She was about 15 years into her career, so she had graduated quite a while ago. But she was making like $400,000 a year working for Gap out in San Francisco. And to me, that was like, oh my God, someday I might be able to make close to $500,000. And the world is completely different now on whether or not that's even a good salary. Like at that time, that was like someone who was making so much fucking money that I didn't even know like how to relate to making that much money. And now when we look at it, like there's so many surveys out in the world people are even saying like, I don't even know if I would feel comfortable if my entire family income wasn't $1 million or more. And even people who aren't making even close to that feel like that's a number that they would want to hit. Like survey over and over again are throwing out these numbers that like 25 years ago when I was graduating from college seemed extremely exorbitant. Anyway, all that to say, like, I knew when I graduated, there was a path for me. There was a way for me to get to that point. There was a way for me to have a solid career and climb that corporate ladder and have a strong, sense of success. At the same time, I will say there is a lot of lucrative money in starting your own brand. And if you have the wherewithal to become an entrepreneur and be willing to work really hard and be willing to learn how to do the business side of things, the finance side of things, the hiring side of things, the leadership side of things, if you're willing and you're open to doing that, there is a lot of money in owning a very successful brand. The trick is the word success, right? Like there are a lot of brands out there that start without a strategy. They start without the knowledge. They start without the support that you need in this industry. And the percentages are staggering. Like when we look at the percentages and we look at the statistics of it, we hear that like 82% of brands who are starting won't last past year 2 or 3. Because they don't understand the finances of it, right? Like you don't understand how much money you actually have to put into it up front to get your inventory, get things designed, get things developed, start working with your manufacturer, buy all of your packaging, buy all of your labels, actually buy all of those little bits and bobs that have to go into your garment. If you don't understand all the pieces and parts of that and you're just winging it, hoping that, maybe you can set aside $50,000, $50,000 sounds like a lot of money and we're going to start this brand this way. Well, you might find that $50,000 isn't going to go very far if you don't have strategy behind it, if you don't have someone helping you understand how far that $50,000 could go. But if you can get the support that you need, you can get the advice that you need, you can learn what you need to learn, you're willing to start slow and grow over time. I mean, we have a client on the books right now who started his company 9.5 years ago. He is a $45 million company now. Like, he's done all the right things, right? Like, he has an amazing product that he is super proud to put out into the world. He was really smart about all of his margins, about where he was manufacturing, about making sure that he had good costs, about working with his budget, about hiring small, but hiring the right people. Like, when you take the right steps and you do the right things, there is absolutely a lot of money in the fashion design world. And that's why we also have brands like Chanel and Dior and Louboutin and all these other like high end designer brands, because they also figured out how to do it the right way. And if you go back and listen to a lot of the stories of how those big house brands started, a lot of them started with really hard work. A lot of them started with struggling to learn the business side of things. A lot of them struggled with knowing who to hire and what space to have their design house in, and all of those kinds of things. So it's absolutely possible to make very good money as a fashion designer, but you also need to keep applying yourself. I always say, the fashion design industry is really interesting to me in that it doesn't demand that we continue to keep learning throughout our careers, right? Like, if my mom was a nurse, so my mom had to get like recertified all the time as a registered nurse, and she would have to go to seminars and she would have to retake tests and things like that to keep her certification and to be able to keep her job and to stay relevant as a nurse inside her industry. And we don't do that inside the fashion industry. We're not requiring people to keep learning about sustainability and ways to get better and ways to learn a little bit more about the technology. Like, we don't require that. And I think that's the thing that you need to be able to grow your career, to be able to make more money, to prove to your manager or to yourself or to your customers or your clients that you are always doing the best that you possibly can, because you're always putting your best foot forward. You're always learning a little bit more. So to answer the question, do fashion designers make good money? They absolutely can. The answer, as always, it depends, which is really annoying, but absolutely, yes. Fashion designers can make really good money. And if you apply yourself and you can continue to learn and keep an open mind and work hard throughout your career, it is absolutely a great way for you to make a great living. So if you have any other questions and you want to actually submit some to us here, especially for Money Mondays or for the podcast that we do, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. You can put comments here in YouTube, or if you're watching this in like a clip form in any of our other social media, you can always comment below, and we'd love to just take your suggestions. So have a wonderful week ahead. Happy Monday, and I'll see you next week.